Josh Brewster, writer for InsideHockey.com. Good morning, Josh. How you been, my friend?
I'm doing well, Scott. Good to hear your voice. I'm back in Buffalo.
Absolutely. And the weather so far, so good, right, Josh? It's held up so far, but hey, around these parts in the next couple of days, things may take a little bit of a turn.
Well, after 30 years in Los Angeles, I have a new policy. Anytime I actually see the sun anywhere near the Great Lakes, I go outside immediately because I know that, these things change every couple minutes here. So.
No, absolutely. On a positive tip, though, Josh, I mean, the Sabres are playing good hockey again. It's been an uphill battle, no doubt. The Sabres have won back-to-back games now, and you've got to start somewhere. Tage Thompson has been doing his thing. Alex Tuch, I know we can talk about him and his contractual situation and going forward. And UPL's had back-to-back starts and is maybe starting to rediscover his form here, too. So you add it all up and maybe a little bit to get excited about. Don't want to say a lot to get excited about as far as the Sabres fan base is concerned, Josh, but at least a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, they're playing the way that Lindy Ruff wants them to play, and that was not what happened when they came out of the gate and lost 3 straight games and scored 2 goals in 3 games, and it looked really dismal. And Lindy went off on the club, and they are giving him what he wants. They're more direct to the net, not playing on the perimeter as much, not passing up as many shots. There's a lot of good stuff here. They've played a lot of games at home. We'll see what happens on the road. But there's a glimmer of hope because they really are – they're playing the right way, and they're being rewarded for it. And we could talk about some things the club needs because it still is going to need, I think, some elements in order to get back to the playoffs. But if they continue to play this way, I think that the GM should reward them. So we can talk about that. And Alex Tuch – I think Alex Tuch is a good example of a guy looking at a new contract, hoping for a new contract, but rubbing up against the team never going to the playoffs and not really going anywhere. So I think he exemplifies what Kevin Adams faces right now, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think, Josh, look, I've been a big Alex Tuch fan for a number of reasons. Number one, he's a great player. He skates like the wind. He can score goals. He can kill penalties for you. That's why, at least at this point, I've got him as a 4th-line winger on Team USA at the Olympics. I think he can fill that role nicely for Team USA should they select him, Bill Guerin and company, when it matters most. But he's a point-per-game guy so far this season, too. And look, Josh, I mean, he loves, as a Western New York native, he loves being a Buffalo Sabre, right? He loves the community. Yeah. He loves the team. This is a guy who wants to be in Buffalo, and then you start to wonder, well, what's the price tag going to be if they want to extend him? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, no doubt, but at the end of the day, I think you've got a really good player, if not particularly great player some nights, that needs to get paid, and Kevin Adams and Terry Pegula are going to have to work something out. At least that would be on the surface what you'd think would ideally happen for the Buffalo Sabres, but again, as I go around in circles here a little bit, Josh, it's all about business too.
Yes, it is. And from the business angle, let me try to be brief with this. You're facing with Tuch a situation that you faced, in a sense, with Eichel and Reinhart and Cousins and other much younger players who have departed. And to put it briefly, for the last 14 non-playoff seasons, the Sabres have been one of, if not the youngest team in the league. It has done them absolutely no good to always be one of the youngest teams. In the last 20 years, the only 2 clubs that won a Stanley Cup with one of the youngest teams is the Chicago Blackhawks. Everybody else comes from the top 2/3 in terms of age, and in fact, almost half of the Cup winners of the last 20 years are in the top 10 of age. So my point here is this. I remember what happened in Anaheim when we brought in guys like Solani and Pronger and Niedermeyer, and I think in Buffalo, they need to do a little of what Pat Verbeek is doing in Anaheim right now, which is it's not just about the young guys. Verbeek has added about 4,500 games of experience in Kreider and Killorn and Granlund and Trouba. I think the Sabres need to really think right now, especially with a couple of notable clubs saying the store is open. Can I get some guys who have played maybe 700 or 800 NHL games. Give me a couple guys to come in here and with experience, more patience with the puck, and use that experience to really support all this good young talent that Buffalo has. And I think that that's really what the GM faces here. He's got to make a decision. Like, is experience something I want to bring back? Because, like I said, I think being the youngest team has not helped, and it's really time to bear down and get some guys who have really done some things in this league. That's my take on it.
Sure. Yeah. Josh Brewster joining us here talking Sabres. Sabres in Pittsburgh tonight, one of 15 on the pre-Thanksgiving docket in the National Hockey League. And I mentioned it earlier, Tage Thompson scoring all these goals that he's scoring. He's a point-per-game guy pretty much again this season to lead the team. Would they be making a mistake, in your opinion, Josh? Would Bill Guerin and USA Hockey be making a mistake if they overlooked Tage Thompson like they did at the Four Nations? I know in Boston, the day of the final, which was February the 20th, he walked right by me in the corridor outside the dressing room because, of course, he was flown in just in case somebody like an Austin Matthews was too banged up to go in that final game against Canada. So he was there but really didn't get an opportunity from the outset. Would they be making a mistake if they overlooked him this time around?
Yes, they would. It's those kind of clubs are often, it's very hard to make those clubs. But if you take a look at what this guy does, and first of all, look at his shot numbers. Aside from his point totals, this is. I watch this guy now every night, and he's just an exceptional skater and such a big guy. But most importantly, and this is where I hope the younger guys on the Sabres pick up on this, this guy does not hesitate to shoot. He's very decisive with the puck, and time is of the essence in every shift that he plays. So I would have to say, I don't know how you could leave Tage Thompson off of that club, but maybe the spotlight doesn't shine too brightly when you're never in the postseason. But no, I can't imagine leaving him off this time.
Very good point. Obviously, when you're battling for important things and playing in big games, you need to step up. And he did that at the Worlds, too. That's going to be a feather in his cap, too, looking ahead, because he scored the only goal, as we know, in the gold medal game at the World Championship for the U.S. to win for the first time in some 90-plus years. So he's got that going for him, as well as Josh Brewster continues to converse with us about the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Zach Benson just returned recently for the Sabres, as you know, Josh, and now it sounds like they're on the verge of getting Josh Norris back. It likely won't be for tonight, but maybe by the weekend he comes back. And look, you want to talk about a guy in Ottawa and now in Buffalo to start who's been hard hit by the injury bug. This guy would be right there at the top of the list. If anything happens the rest of the way, I think we've all got our fingers crossed. No doubt he and the Sabres have their fingers crossed collectively here to see him be healthy for the rest of the season, to see what he could potentially do. I know everybody's going to compare what he does to Dylan Cousins because it was such a big trade. And, Cousins this season's not exactly lighting it up so far for the Ottawa Senators. But this is a pretty big ad for the Sabres coming back to the weekend because we know that he's a point producer when he's healthy, and he's also a guy that can impact your power play.
Well, indeed, you really can only hope that things smooth out for this guy. He scored 35 goals before with Ottawa, and I think the Sabres would make a mistake thinking that all the injured guys are going to propel them to where they really want to be. But there's no question that this was a big ad, and you've got to really hope that things smooth out because I think that a center like him. Right in the middle of your lineup. I think this is the kind of guy who, he could make you forget Dylan Cousins, and that really is the tough part on this club. I mean, they brought in Josh Doan, for example, for JJ Peterka along with Michael Kesselman, but you take a look at what Norris brings, and they absolutely need it. He's a decisive player. And then on the other hand, I mentioned Josh Doan. I'm hoping that this is the kind of guy who plays the way he plays, kind of like his father played. And I think his father was a tremendous NHLer. And so hopefully Josh Norris comes back and gives them a little consistency. They're going to need it because they've They've been terrible on the road, and they're about to go on the road for 8 of the next 10. So
Yeah.
you hope that trade works out. You really hope the trade works out because the club is in a position where they need a tourniquet. They need to stop bleeding all the young talent, bleeding out all these high picks that they've taken. And, that would be a kind of guy who could maybe get you from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been interesting, too, to watch the way that Lindy and the Sabres have tackled their goaltending situation this season so far, Josh. And we know that UPL was kind of banged up and he was fighting an uphill battle to get right physically before he could get his opportunity. But they still have 3 goalies that they're running with right now. Alex Lyon seemed to play each and every night for the first 3 weeks of the season for Buffalo, and quite frankly played fairly well. So you've got Alex Lyon. UPL, as mentioned, played the last couple and won. They picked up Colton Ellis along the way. They seem to be encouraged by his potential down the road. So at what point do you think that they need to make a decision on the 2 goalies that they're going to run with? We already know that Alexander Georgiev, who was at Rochester, has gone back to the KHL to join up with Spartak. We're wondering where Devin Levi eventually factors in, if he does in Buffalo at the NHL level. But how do you see it, at least in the short term here, working itself out between Lyon, UPL, and Colton Ellis?
Honestly, I think this is an odd situation where I love a 3-goalie rotation. And the reason is more about the history of the club in the last 14 years. This club needs more competition to make the club up and down the lineup. It's another reason I think bringing in some experienced forwards and defensemen would help. But as far as goaltending goes, I like the competition. It's been working. It's really been the strongest point of their club. Getting a surprise from Colton Ellis, getting a guy who was just looking for an opportunity in life in Alex Lyon. It takes a long time to develop goalies sometimes, and I like that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is grinding his teeth over this. I love it. I think it's great that there's a competition. This is a club that's in dire straits, and we'll know by New Year's if they're going to be one of the clubs that are likely headed to the playoffs, right? Most of 75% are usually in playoff position. I think competition is a good thing. I think all 3 of them have had a real good start to the season, and it's a very rare occasion where I would say I really don't care when they solve this. If they want to keep 3 around, let the competition continue.
Hey, Josh, look, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Ducks before we let you go. And being around that team for as long as you were, you know about the ups and you know about the downs. And the last couple of years, obviously, more downs than ups. I think Greg Cronin did a great job in developing the team and having a 21-point improvement going back to last season. Now they bring Joel Quenneville in, one of the all-time winningest head coaches in National Hockey League history. Seems to me that they've got a really good mix of veteran players and really emerging good young players that they're reaping the benefits of right now. So now that you're back in Western New York, what's it been like to see the Ducks ascension to the top of the Pacific Division?
Well, I'll tell you, the last 5 or 6 years of doing Duck calls, it was getting real rough. They couldn't score a goal. I guess Joel Quenneville is the odds-on. He's got to be the odds-on Jack Adams right now. I see the way that they play. They're responding to him the way the Sabres are responding to Lindy. But Joel has them really going full blast all the time. Pat Verbeek has done a great job of using his big draft picks because the club had some very high picks, and everyone will point to the youth, and they should. But I want to double back to my first point. Verbeek was smart. He brought in Kreider and Trouba and Radko Gudas and go down the line. There's about 4,500 plus games that Verbeek brought in to lead the way with all these kids. And they'll talk all day about the kids, but I think youth is one of the most overrated things in hockey. And I think experience might be one of the most underrated things. And I think that Pat Verbeek gets a lot of credit for having put together a lineup that features smarts and youthful jump. I'm really impressed. My Stanley Cup ring is getting a little dusty, and I love the club. The Ducks will always have a place in my heart.